What's going on, everybody? I hope everyone is having a great rest of their day so far. I am here joined with some fellow Canes fanatics on another episode of Miami Hurricanes Football After Dark. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. And let's get started. The first day of spring practice. Ross, where do we even begin, man? I mean, people are just excited over 20-second highlight tapes of spring practice. But ultimately, guys, I mean, it's the first day. Everyone's excited. I get it. The Canes are back in Greentree, ready to go. Here's the thing, guys. The first position group I'm curious about is the quarterback position unit. They're all underclassmen. They're all very talented. Who do you guys think is going to step up this spring at the quarterback position, James?
Before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to Brad and Adrian, all the work that they've done for Luca to the U. It's been special, and I know those guys right there worked hard to make that come to fruition and make it special for Luca. So shout out to those guys, and those are my guys. So I'm glad. I'm just honored to be a part of the Hurricane family, especially when I see things like that. So as far as a quarterback goes, I think I'm going to be honest with you. This is going to be shocking, but I think Jake Garcia comes out. I think Jake Garcia is going to impress a lot of people early. And even talks of him starting as a true freshman may emerge if King isn't ready or he's not healthy.
I would love to see a young quarterback truly take that and run with it. It's something that we haven't seen in a while. Yeah, we had, Jaron Williams for his little part-time kind of, one season in Miami, but I would love nothing more than to see a young guy, especially a guy like Garcia, a guy who's got that swag, a guy who's got that confidence, come in there and really pick up the playbook from the jump and really take that job. I think TVD isn't going to just roll over and die. He's not going to hand him that position by any means. TVD is talented himself. But Garcia, James, I agree. I feel like that would be the guy that I'd really like to see step up.
Yeah, I'm actually going to agree with both you guys. I think Garcia, my gut just tells me Garcia is going to be the guy that emerges because even though TVD's the physical freak, 6'4", 220, big arm, he can run. But he didn't face the competition that Jake Garcia faced in California and Georgia. And I just feel like he's the more cerebral guy. I'm with you, Ross. I think he's got all the swag in the world. I think he's just got that little it factor that you see in certain guys that has special potential. And I think he has that. So, yeah, I'm going to lean Jake Garcia.
Yeah. First off, I want to say, Luca to the U, I think it was something beautiful that Brad put together. So, thank you to Brad for doing that. And if you guys aren't familiar, Luca, he is, I believe, 8 years old. He has been diagnosed with leukemia. He's a big Miami Hurricanes fan. So if you guys can do whatever you can, support Luca to the U, buy his stickers on stickersbyab.com, and those funds will be headed towards the Luca Foundation to his family regarding that matter. So thank you again for everyone who was involved. Truly is beautiful what's going on with the Canes family. All right. Everyone's saying Jake Garcia. Hey, I believe it. Two different offensive coordinators basically assessed him, evaluated him as the top priority at the quarterback position. I love going with the dark horse, and I think Peyton Matoka is the best athlete of the group. And I think in modern day college football, I would love just me as a person, I would love a great athlete at the University of Miami. I think we're seeing that with De'Aaron King. I think Matoka has the great arm, great mobile ability. Do not be surprised. I'm curious how his development will be this spring, but I would not be surprised if Peyton Matoka takes over the quarterback room. And I'm pulling for him. He is the underdog. He has the biggest chip on his shoulder. Van Dyke, that was the priority in the past class. Garcia, that was the priority as well. Matoka, he wasn't the priority. He was a late snag Dan Enos identified. So, hey, that's who I'm looking forward to as sneaking in there. But, guys, does everyone agree that whoever ends up getting first-team snaps at the end of spring will be the starting quarterback in 2022, or is that a whole different subject?
I think that The fall still has to play out, and I think that not all the pieces are going to be there and all the mechanics aren't going to be there, and things aren't going to be fully developed, I think, until the fall. So I think we're not going to get a clear picture of what's going to happen with the season until maybe August, maybe early August or mid-August.
Yeah.
I see it as a nice little possible glimpse into the future at what we might have. But as we've all seen, being football fans for some time now, a lot can happen in 1 year in the development of a quarterback. A whole lot can happen. So, I definitely think there's things we can take from this and move forward with them and consider them in the future. But to me, it's definitely going to be a whole nother story when that next season comes around.
Yeah, I agree. Especially if you're talking quarterbacks. If De'Ara King is healthy and ready to go, he's going to be the guy, barring anything unforeseen. But it would have to take, like, Jake Garcia would really have to just like blow everyone away in the spring and in the summer, which I think he's going to impress people, like we said before. But I don't know if it'll be to the level that he could just confidently leapfrog King. If King is healthy, he's the guy.
All eyes are always at the quarterback position. Every single practice. Ross, what else are you looking forward to this spring?
This spring, the offensive line, but Paul, I've mentioned this before. My heart in football is in the trenches. That's where you make or break your team at the end of the day. That's where you see teams like Bama and them load up and just continually dominate in that little area that it's pretty incredible actually what they've done. Garen Justice has a lot of work to do, but watching his film from when he was at other stops, especially at that UNLV stop, I noticed in year 2 is when that the run blocking unit really started to pick up. And that to me is going to be a big deal, is our run blocking specifically. If we can get this run game headed in the right direction, we all know it only makes King's job easier. And we all know what it can do as far as diversifying the offense and adding more things to it and, getting those different twists and things that we've all wanted to see from a Lashley offense. We didn't get to see that as much last year with no spring, rotational offensive line that really, didn't find its footing until a little bit later in the year. And, a quarterback, kind of learning, a bunch of brand new stuff, all just happening, boom, boom, boom. So that offensive line to me is going to be really, really, really crucial.
Kane's blog, what do you think?
Well, first and foremost, I want to see if that whole seniority BS is a thing of the past and it's going to be a fair competition at every position. If it is, you could see a guy like Jalen Rivers or Isaiah Walker get some playing time at O-line. You could see a Romello Brinson or a Keyshawn Smith grab a starting role at wide receiver. So I definitely want to see that. As far as specific units, yeah, wide receiver is the one that I'm really interested in, because needless to say, they did not get the job done last year. So I want to see somebody emerge as an alpha in that room.
Yeah, it's sad that I remember when we didn't have wide receiver issues, and it always seems like watching the Canes ever since the 90s, we'd always have at least 1 or 2 years where we landed 1 or 2 really good wide receivers, and we wouldn't have to worry about, wide receiver issues. But it just seems like we were landing the guys, but for some odd reason, it's just not translating. And, I tell people that the wide receiver position at the U has to be something that dominates, someone that stands out, especially when known for speed.
Hey, we had 12 wide receivers on scholarship, man. More than 2's got to pan out eventually. If not, hey, that's on whoever recruited the wide receivers in the past, Ron Dugans, Coach Likens. Whoever brought in that personnel, it's on them. It's got to be on coaching. You got to make it work with 12 guys. If Marshall Few is your best option, put him out there. I'd rather have a guy who's going to give me 110% every single play than someone who's going to take off snaps. So, hey, I want the best players in that wide receiver rotation. I think Mike Harley, this is the offense for him. He was always supposed to play in a spread offense. He was recruited by Dana Hogerson at West Virginia. This is the perfect offense for him. We saw it this past season. That's your number 1 wide receiver, Charleston Rambo. That's your deep ball threat. Get someone on the inside as your slot receiver. Hey, let's make it work. Keyshawn Smith, he runs what? He's very fast. People say he runs a 4.3 roughly. That's if you can take his skill set in the ACC Coastal, he should excel. Mark Pope, D. Wiggins, their skill set in the ACC Coastal. Name me someone in the secondary, in the cornerback position group overall in the ACC Coastal that can match up with those guys. There's not a lot. Skill set versus skill set. So ultimately, hey, it's you got to catch the football. Keep it simple, but there's really no excuses. We should find the right wide receiver rotation. Second year under Rhett Lashley's offense, plus a spring practice.
UNC has that one cornerback.
Rhymes?
Is that what it is? He's
Rhymes?
a cornerback. He was a 5-star.
Rhymes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, I know that he's potentially very, very
Right.
a threat to have on the wide receivers, but
Right.
we see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. And I know Virginia in the past, they had some good cornerbacks as well. But, you know, it's the ACC Coastal. We're not in the strongest division in the Power 5 range. So we'll see. Guys, offensive line-wise, I think we're going to take a big step this upcoming season. Kane's blog, what do you think?
That's going to be the unit I think makes the biggest jump. Because O-line is the position group that experience matters the most. Usually national championship teams or playoff contending teams, they have minimum 60 or 70 starts between all the linemen or something like that. I saw a stat years ago. So yeah, experience is huge. Again, not to say that a Jalen Rivers doesn't emerge and start just because he's massive. But yeah, that O-line, that run blocking specifically is going to take a big step. And if that happens, this offense is going to be very difficult to stop if we're getting 5-6 yards on first down rather than -1.
Cool. James, what do you think about this offensive line unit returning?
I want to know what's going on with Navon Donaldson. I mean, I remember him from 2017. He was one of the most hyped up offense. And I know Navon personally and his family, great people. And I absolutely love his mother, Yvonne, and he's a great dude. And you know, but I just feel like for what he is as a talent and what I spotted in him, even going back to Miami Central, I'm a little disappointed up to this point that it hasn't panned out. I'm sure he is too. So he's probably working. He took that red shirt to work to try to get back in there and try to make it to the NFL. So we'll hope that's the case and Navon comes back as somebody who can dominate.
James, correct me if I'm wrong. Did Navon Donaldson's first year he was all conference or all American at right guard?
I believe so. I mean, I remember he was so fast he was blocking down the field for Rozier. Remember that?
Yep, I remember that.
He was getting down the field blocking, and we were like, whoa. And when he was doing 7-on-7, he would play tight end. And
wow.
He was yeah. He's a huge tight end. So, I mean, man, when I seen him, you know, he put on some pounds. He took a step back. It didn't translate for him. He had some rough years. But, yeah, hopefully, you know, as focused as he's been and as much work as he's put in, I hope that he becomes a captain of that offensive line, actually. I hope that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, no, I think that would be huge. Zion Nelson, left tackle. You got Jared Williams coming back as well. Very excited, man. You know what?
Isaiah Wilson?
Oh, Isaiah Walker?
Walker,
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, that's someone, you know, we kind of forget about because, you know, he didn't play this past season. But, yeah, I mean, huge talent out of Miami Norland. We wanted him badly. So,
I think he's one of our biggest recruits coming in last year.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? Cory Gainer is the heart and soul of this offensive line, in my opinion. He's always been our starting center. He's the leader of that group, not necessarily as a player, you know, just personality-wise, you know, he wants to take over, you know, that leader of the offensive line unit, something we've been missing. Brett Romberg speaks very highly of him. He doesn't speak in a sense, he's very critical of other offensive linemen who come at Miami because he wants the best. So, you know, I think Cory Gainer will be our leader of that group ultimately. And, you know, he fits that bill, that personality. And we need leaders on this football team. We saw what happened in 2019 when we don't have leadership.
Absolutely.
Ross.
What I preach, first thing, Paul, before we move on, what I preach is continuity on the offensive line, and what I preach is a unit that moves forward together and gels together. Since we didn't see that last year, I'm more than happy to see them put together a new unit with the hopes that it truly does gel and it becomes our starting five for the remainder of the season.
What I was going to, touch up after that, guys, Bob Shoop, stated by Bubba Bolden, he is a mastermind. Do you think Bob Shoop's presence is really going to make an impact on this football team defensively? And with Manny Diaz as well, because we cannot have a disaster like that defensively, like we had against UNC and Clemson. We were very undisciplined. A lot of penalties were made, both sides of the football. But overall, we didn't have an answer for them. We didn't have an answer against Oklahoma State in the first quarter and third and fourth quarter.
You know what's funny is I called the 4th and 18 a couple of years ago. Everybody on Twitter hated me. They're like, no, what are you doing? You don't jinx it. But I just felt like, this watching Baker, like, I went to the UF game, and I know people don't like going that far back, but that was Baker's first year at defensive coordinator. And I one of the things I tweeted was he took Manny Diaz defense, prize defense, and made it a consolation prize because, oh man, there was this things going on that didn't look like the Miami Hurricane defense of 2017 and 2016. It wasn't there. And I saw it live, and I'm just like, man, this is not the defense that we thought we were getting. We thought Manny, was going to become a head coach. Then sure enough, we play UNC, 4th and 18. We've seen our corners get burned. I mean, that seems to be an issue over and over and over again. Our corners they look lost out there, or our linebackers look lost out there, and we just UNC looked like the 4th and 18 happened and we got demoralized. I think it's pretty much after that we kind of checked out. So.
Yeah.
The one thing that stood out to me with Manny Diaz was his remark about how Shoop would oversee the defense, basically. He'd be a guy who could kind of sit back, kind of a bird's nest view of everything. He gets to kind of imprint his type of defense throughout the defense, and it gives Manny a guy to really bounce ideas off of. It gives him a guy who's got experience, a proven guy that can come in and hopefully make those adjustments to our defense that takes it into the new era, along with guys like T-Rob as well coming as a secondary coach. To me, Shoop is a big deal for us this year, and it's because I truly believe he will be our defensive coordinator the following season.
I 100% agree. I think he's our future DC. A lot of people were, mad that, we should have just made T-Will the DCs and to not let him go. But it's like, no, but Manny has a plan. Relax. Yeah. No, Bob Shoop, if anyone remembers, when he was at Mississippi State, he had a top 5 defense. I think he was the number 2 defense in the country. The year that Manny was number 4, both were up for the Bros Award that year. I forgot who ended up winning it, but they're very similar in style and aggressiveness. They see eye to eye. Shoop is a veteran, and I think our game preparation on defense will take a big step forward, which we've desperately needed for the last 15 years. So yeah, I'm very excited about the Shoop hire. I think it was a home run.
Hey, Burroughs Award finalist James Franklin promoted him when he went from Tennessee to Penn State. Literally brought him over. Did great things at Mississippi State. Had a top 10 defense in the SEC. Very impressive. Very impressive. Outstanding resume. So I think it's going to work out well. And hey, if he's our next defensive coordinator, I would love that. That is huge. The only thing is, like, why isn't he defensive coordinator right now,
He's getting paid from his other job still. He's still, they're fulfilling that contract. And I believe if he took a coordinator job elsewhere, he wouldn't be getting that money from his former team.
Okay.
So he can take that money and the money we're giving him now and then wait a season and then become the DC.
Well, he's an analyst, but I think that we kind of know what that means. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's so that he doesn't have a conflict of interest, or it's a violation of a non-compete clause inside his contract. But yeah, I mean, I'll take him as an analyst all day, and just let him do his thing as the coordinator with the title of analyst. I mean, we've seen this in Alabama before, where he grabs a lot of coordinators and DCs and OCs and gives them an analyst title, but they're doing a lot more than just being an analyst. So I almost want to say that for sure, Shoop is going to have his hand in almost anything in the defense.
Yeah, he's basically the D coordinator behind the scenes, it seems like.
Oh, yeah.
Love it. Guys, secondary. Is there more confidence going into the season with our cornerback group?
Oh.
Tyreek Stevenson's presence. I love it, man. I think he's going to be our number one corner. It's a Corey Couch as well. Both guys are going to start out on the boundary, in my opinion. Don't forget about Al Blades Jr. either. So I'm very confident in this cornerback group. Quite a while under the Manny Diaz era. We finally have some depth. Am I seeing things, or is that the buzz going around everyone here?
I would agree. I see some depth. It was the return of Blades, the return of Avante Williams, who's very versatile. And now Jalen Harrell switching positions. That was like the cherry on top, because if you include Avante Williams, that's like 8 guys now that you have at corner rather than just like 4. So yeah, definitely more depth. And I would love to see what Ivy and Blades do in a defense that's more bump and run style, because that's another thing we've been missing for, it seems like, forever. Blades, and especially Blades, he's more physical. So yeah, I'm very excited about the corner. That's another unit that's going to take a big step forward. And Tyreek, I think, is just a beast. Is a all SEC caliber guy coming over. That's a huge get.
I think we'll see improvements right away, honestly. And I think a lot of it will have to do with the fact that T-Rob is the type of guy who's earned his respect and earned his right to come into a school and kind of run things his way. I don't think he would have came to Miami just to run Manny Diaz's secondary. I think T-Rob is here to update our secondary and bring us into the modern era a little bit more, where we can cover these spread defenses better. I mean, our safety room is absolutely, it's just ridiculous, honestly. It's absolutely loaded. The cornerback position, like you guys are mentioning, for the first time in a while, there truly might be depth there. And it's where guys like Couch and Ivy, those are guys I really feel like actually fit this T-Rob system really well. And I think he's going to make his imprint on them immediately. Bringing in Tyreek Stevenson, of course, gives us a dog on the outside. We've needed that for quite some time now. But to see guys like Ivy, Blades, and other guys that actually truly battling it out in an open competition is only going to make us better.
It's been so long for me since I've seen a good cornerback position at Miami that I kind of lost hope. I do like that T-Rob is there. Believe it or not, we're going on 10 years since we've landed a 5-star corner. And the fact that Tyreek is the only 5-star corner to ever transfer here in the last decade is another thing that tells me something. So I'm like, maybe T-Rob is enough to finally revamp and redo the cornerback room. But I just feel like it could be too little too late. The safeties are okay. And I think the safeties are going to step up and make up for a lot of the lack of cornerback play. I'm not saying from Tyreek. Tyreek is a freak. And I think that we're blessed to have him this one season, because I'm sure he's going to check in with an agent December 14th, 2021. And he'll be in the combines in less than 8 months. But just to have him here for one season even to help out our cornerback play is big, for sure.
Yeah, speaking of South Florida DBs, Arizona State, hello, where are they? They just came into South Florida, it seems like, man. They're doing a very good and interesting job in recruiting in this area. I know Herm Edwards is the head coach there, but, hey, looks like that's what they're trying to push now. So everyone's trying to get into South Florida, so we got to...
Like in Minnesota.
Yeah, exactly. PJ Fleck in Minnesota as well. But at least I feel like if you're from South Florida, going to Minnesota, just be understanding. It's not like it's 50 degrees. It's going to get in the negatives, I feel like, just understand.
One thing that we really do have to remember in all of this stuff is that we allowed schools like Arizona State to come into our state and actually start to get some of these recruits' interest. We allowed all of this to happen by not taking things seriously, not taking our cornerback room seriously with our coaches, and getting the right recruits locked down. When you allow this kind of stuff to happen, it'll take more than 1 year to fix it. I do trust that T-Rob can get us pointed in the right direction, but it will definitely take more than one season, I think.
Guys, defensive line. Not in my opinion, the personnel we have is pretty solid. It's very complete. How do you guys think this defensive line unit is going to play and match up compared to the past defensive line units we've seen in the past in Miami? Now, defensive end wise, we've been very good. It's been like reload every single season. What do you think, Kane's blog?
Nesta coming back is massive because that usually is a guy like Bubba Bolden, like Mike Harley, Cam Harris, all these guys normally would have gone to the draft and gone 5th rounder later, and we have to try to rebuild again. But he's coming back. You got Jared Harrison Hunt coming back. Some young guys behind them. You actually got depth at D tackle for once.
Yeah.
Only thing with Nesta I noticed, like he'll take a few plays off, but then he'll have a play where he grabs a blocker and throws him at the running back. And it's like, where was that the whole first half? But, he makes those big plays. We need a guy that's like steady, like the entire game. Like the running back can't run up the middle because he's penetrating or causing havoc every play. I don't know if we have a guy like that in the D tackle room, but we got some athletes for sure.
I think this interior defensive line is going to have to carry more weight than it has in the previous seasons, just due to the fact that these defensive ends are going to need a little time to develop. So while those guys are developing, if that interior pass rush can truly develop for us, it would be huge. I think it'd be absolutely huge because it's only going to make the young defensive ends' jobs easier. The one thing that we can say about these young defensive ends who don't have experience is they have the physical traits that we want. They have the physical traits and the prototypical type of traits that we mold into really, really good edge rushers. I think, we might see a little bit of issues to start with, but I think it's only a matter of time until the defensive ends start to truly become what we all hope they can be.
Yeah, for the first time, I'm not saying I'm worried about the defensive end position, but we've had a long string going back to Joe Jackson, or even before AQM and Thomas. Going back about 6-7 years now, we've had consistent 1 or 2 both defensive ends going at it, where they stand out and the NFL guys say, "Hey, look, we need that guy on our team." Jalen Phillips being the last guy. I don't know who is going to be this year for us. I mean, there's talks about I forgot his name. We don't have any. Do we have any defensive end transfers? I can't remember.
DeAndre Johnson from Tennessee.
Yeah.
Is he a defensive end or a linebacker?
Yeah, he was a outside linebacker, defensive end. He was like kind of like a hybrid. He was switched around in the SEC.
Okay, so we do. I think Jafai Harvey, I think his name is. Yes. I think is one guy. We got Chance, who probably can shock people. Who's a 5-star himself. But I don't know. Early right now, I don't know who is going to be the defensive monster that's pretty much been our signature for the last 5, 6, 7 years. But I'm not too down and out about the defensive line. I think that our defensive line will be able to do something. I mean, I think we'll be fine with the defensive line. We're not going to be struggling. I don't know if we're going to be a shining star of the ACC, but we'll be effective. So.
I agree. Go ahead, King's Blog.
I was going to say, we got Jess Simpson. That's
that also helps. Yeah, absolutely.
That helps big time.
Yeah.
We saw what he did in just one season with our defensive line this last time. Our third down defense, our tackles for loss, it even benefited the point to where our secondary became one of the best secondaries on third down. So it's gonna permeate throughout the entire defense, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kane's said it best. We're going to be a solid group. I don't think we're going to be like a dominant group in the national rankings. Top 10 defensive line unit. But I think we're going to be a solid middle of the road, perhaps top 25 defensive line unit. We have a solid personnel. Nothing. First round NFL draft picks, Quincy Roche, Jalen Phillips, or Gregory Rousseau. We have a solid group who are above average players, and I think their skill set is very good. They just got to put it together. And we have the right coach to supervise those individuals. So, hey, put all the pieces together. It's going to work out. I guarantee you. Ross, anything we have not covered? I know we never talk about punting and kicking field goals through the uprights. But I will say this, guys. This is something that maybe it's just me. This really bothers me. Our punt return game, this kick return is obsolete in college football. It merely exists nowadays with the new rules. But we haven't done very good. It's been very minimal, the effect it's had on our game, returning punts. It's been atrocious, in my opinion. And that used to be something Miami took pride in. Who was that next punt returner at the U? Because that would set up our offense all the time for that game-winning drive back in the day.
Absolutely. We were lucky enough to have Santana Moss and then what's his name? Devin Hester.
Devin Hester.
Guys that and then even Sean Taylor would get back there and he would take it down the field. So man, I have no idea what happened. It almost feels like a curse. It might be the Devin Hester curse. I don't know, because our punt return game and kick return game has been non-existent.
And James, Travis Benjamin was a good punt returner.
Absolutely. And then we get guys who muff the punts. They run out of bounds early. They touch the ball, they get ran into the ball. I mean, we just don't have a good special teams personnel, I don't think. I mean, we haven't had one. So hopefully, that changes.
Yeah, I remember it was Moss, Roscoe Parrish, and Devin Hester, and then right after them, Bruce Johnson.
Wow.
No disrespect to Bruce Johnson, but that was a big drop-off, and we've never really recovered since. Not truly. Braxton Berrios, I thought the one or two times he actually tried was a good returner, but it was always a
State. Remember that Florida State game?
That he almost housed it to win the game.
Badgley missed one, yeah.
Yeah, somebody got his shoestring,
Yeah, and he was pissed.
Yeah, but who do I see emerging? This kid, Malik Curtis, is that his name in this recruiting class?
Ooh, yes. That's the guy. That's the sleeper of the class. I think that's the one guy that, and I want to. What's going on with him? He was a wide receiver that we're making into a cornerback. Is that what's going on?
No, he's a corner, I think, to start.
Oh, okay. Because I had read on Twitter, maybe the Twitter experts, but people were saying that he's a guy who's definitely could be a wide receiver. So.
Well, if you look at his high school film, I mean, the guy just screams playmaker on both sides of the ball, and guys like that, especially while they're finding their feet in the program and developing, I'd like to think that we're keeping an eye on them as well at multiple positions. Versatility is such a huge thing in the game these days. You see it even at the NFL level now, how much it's coveted. If we can get guys trained at multiple positions, especially a guy who could actually be something that we could depend on both sides of the field, it's only going to help us in the long run.
Absolutely.
We actually forgot this position unit. It's very important. Linebackers and strikers. Which is, that can literally be arguments about this one. Because a lot of people are not happy with our linebackers development. Hopefully that does change. And we do have Ishmael Aristide. I think that's more of a recruiting role. We'll see how it is developing. Coach Packey, I believe, was he was outside linebackers or Baker was inside linebackers, vice versa. But it's got to get better. And I think we have the right personnel in there. I love Sam Brooks, Corey Flagg. I love him. He's the next star of that group. But I need to see development. I want to see the guys start. I want to see the young guys get playing time. Don't want to see, McLeod's going to defensive end, but, Bradley Jennings, we've seen flashes of his success. He's made some big plays, but he hasn't full season. I don't know. Haven't seen that yet.
Well, this, to me, it goes into about what Kane's blog was saying about seniority at Miami. And this is the position to where I want to see the young guys get their chance to truly just soar. This is Corey Flagg season. I'm all on board. I'm rooting for that guy 100%, and I see absolutely no reason why he won't produce for us. He has nothing but it's not even a chip on his shoulder. He has a boulder on his shoulder for the lack of disrespect he got locally in recruiting where he's from. Those schools didn't think that he could translate his talent into the next level, but all he did in high school was produce. It's literally all he did. Sam Brooks, Flagg, those are the guys that I want to see getting a lot of the snaps. I think Jennings still has a role that he can play with us for sure, but I want to see those young guys fly, and I'm ready to see the next version of Frierson at striker. I can't wait to see his development.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys caught how many guys gained 10 to 12 pounds of muscle in the offseason. It was like 6 or 7 guys. Striker, I think we're set with Frierson, and I heard some things about Keontre maybe trying some snaps at linebacker. I read something, but we'll see. But he's good at striker or either or. I think he's a really smart player. And who else? And then you got Chase Smith, who's he's the next great striker. When he's one of those rare guys. I think he's like Avante Williams. Once he gets on the field, he's not coming off. And then linebacker, it sucks they're losing Avery Huff, I think, is the one switching to striker. So they lost a possible playmaker there. But yeah, I like Brooks and Flagg. Hopefully, they don't, no injuries or anything, because there's not a lot. We don't have a lot of numbers at linebacker, but I like those 2 guys, and I think they're ready.
All right, Ross, anything else you got for us?
I'd be curious to hear from the guys while we got them here just for a second. How are you guys liking this 2022 recruiting class? We've got changes of coaches. We've got that stuff going on. You know how that stuff goes. Sometimes you get changes of coaches. Certain players decide not to follow along anymore. Do you guys think we're going to close this class out really well?
We can only go up.
Yeah.
We only got 1 commit.
Yeah, we got 1 commit.
It's the dead period. There's plenty of time.
Yeah, I think if we can land Ja'Cory Brown, I think more will follow. I think that's a big one in the next, it could be I think he's announcing March 16th or something like that.
He's a quarterback from Georgia, correct?
Yep, South Georgia.
Yes.
Same high school as Thomas Davis, who we're bringing in.
No, oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, so I know they said his release needs a little bit of work. He's a bit of a raw talent, but I saw those 7-on-7 clips, and he was getting the ball out there, really 40, 50 yards down the field, just flick of the wrist. So
yeah, he's going to excel in an RPO offense, honestly, in my opinion.
I would like to see if we can close out and recruit and get that guy Shavar Stewart, I think his name is.
Yeah, he goes to Pace. Yeah,
that would be a battle. I mean, I'm not expecting it, but maybe weirder things have happened.
James, I know we talked about South Florida earlier in the show, but the staff has really been prioritizing that South Georgia area, or just the state of Georgia in general. I've been seeing a lot. And I know we lost Travis Williams to Auburn, and he was even more focusing on Georgia, Alabama. But they're really putting a focus in that area. I don't know there's a reason to it, but it's just something I've observed.
I want to get everybody's take on one thing that's really been, boggling my mind, sort of say, why can't we land 5-star cornerbacks from down here? I mean, I've heard everything from they rather go to Alabama. I've heard, obviously, the Bizag game, Yeah, but why corners? That's what I think the last 5-star corner we landed was Tracy Howard from Miramar in 2011, which was a 2012 class guy. So yeah, it's been literally 10 years since we landed one. Maybe that changes.
I think it's probably maybe it's the position coaches we've had at that at corner. I know Mike Rumpf, who I've heard is a very good teacher of the position, will probably do better in the NFL. But recruiting is a whole different animal, and I don't think that's where his skills were. I'm blanking right now who were the cornerback coaches before that, but yeah, it's weird because safety, DN, wide receiver, sometimes running back, we're landing elite guys, but at certain positions, D tackle, until this year we haven't landed elite guys until Leonard Taylor, and corner for whatever reason. I'm not sure.
Yeah, to answer, I think the cornerbacks coach was Paul Lawrence. He was the worst recruiter. Just like building relations with South Florida, like he was awful. He went to Illinois after, I think, under Lovie Smith.
You mean Paul Williams?
Yeah, Paul Williams. You're right, Paul Williams. Yeah, he was awful. He was a D'Onofrio coaching staff member. But James, to answer that question, look, Alabamas are in South Florida. The 5-star recruits, I understand we're missing on them. But how about the under the radar recruits as well?
Oh, yeah,
Those 3-star guys who they don't get the top tier P5 offers, and then come the Indianas, the Minnesotas, like you mentioned, and they snag them. And I feel like those 3-star recruits, they don't have that personality. I'm a 5-star recruit that I want this, I want that. They come in hungry. They want to prove to everyone that they deserve a shot at the elite level, just like everyone else.
like Rousseau.
You
Rousseau was a mid-tier 3-star.
Yeah.
He was
Drug out of Champagnat, which there looks like a auto dealership in the middle of Hialeah. So it's like, how could we got a guy like Rousseau, who obviously is gonna be a first-round talent. But we need somebody who can put an eye to how to spot more of those guys. So
Yep.
It's about finding that mix. You got to be able to bring in the elite guys that you want to bring in, the priority targets, and it's about bringing in those underrated guys like Paul's talking about as well. If you can find that nice little mix of guys who've got elite talent to work with and guys who've got hunger and hidden talent, you can really do well for yourself. One thing I will say about cornerbacks, I think any cornerback that's worth his weight would definitely say that seeing development happen at the college is probably one of the biggest things that they could see. They know how important it is to get some kind of development for the NFL level. Yes, you can be raw and be a cornerback and still go on the NFL, but to get some of those NFL techniques down and some of those NFL abilities down while you're in college is a big deal. And, we talked about Tracy Howard. We see what happened to our last 5-star. We didn't develop that guy. So we need to develop these guys, and we need to show that we can get it done with the guys we currently have.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Canesblog.
Oh, sorry. You just said something. Getting a guy that's got the skill set, but also got the hunger, something to prove. That's what Butch Davis was great at. He'd find those guys. And now Malik Curtis is a good example. 3-star guy, but is electric with the ball in his hand. He's a good example. This is probably not as good of an example because he's ranked pretty high, but Marvin Jones Jr., 4-star D end. Larry Bluestein says that kid's going to be the best recruit in the state of Florida. I don't know why he's ranked so low. But I was just thinking the transfer portal, those guys are going to be there for the taking because the transfer portal is going to kill the 3-star market. And I think they're going to be available for us because it's easier for a school out of state to just grab an experienced guy.
The thing is, Manny Diaz really likes the transfer portal. So I read somewhere, I don't know where, maybe it was just hearsay on a forum, they want to take 5 transfer portal players and 20 recruits. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. So we'll see. All right, guys, is that a wrap for tonight's show? You got anything else, guys, that we did not cover?
Well, I will say,
good to go.
no matter what, it's always going to be all about
the
you.
you, baby, no matter what. Love it, man. All right, guys, hope everyone has a great rest of your night. And always, like James said from Canes Edit, all about the you. Go Canes.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on, guys. Peace.